the glittering world of wealth and privilege, Sarah Collins had everything most people could only dream of. As the only daughter of Richard Collins, a billionaire real estate mogul in New York, she grew up in mansions, traveled in private jets, and attended exclusive parties. Her life was a whirlwind of luxury and attention, but it was also full of people who treated her differently because of her last name. One evening, at a high-profile charity gala in Manhattan, Sarah found herself surrounded by a group of her wealthy friends. They were sipping champagne, laughing about how difficult it was to find the right kind of man. Sarah, with a mischievous smile, joked loudly, "Maybe I should just marry a mechanic. At least he'd know how to fix things around the house." The room erupted in laughter. For the elite crowd, it was nothing more than a playful remark, but not everyone found it funny. Unbeknownst to Sarah, a young mechanic named Daniel Miller was working at the event, hired last minute to handle some technical issues with the sound system. Daniel came from a small town in Ohio, a hard-working man in his late 20s who spent most of his days covered in grease, repairing engines, and keeping his small auto shop alive. He heard her words clearly. For a moment, they stung, but instead of bitterness, he simply shook his head and returned to his work, an unexpected encounter. The next day, fate played its hand. Sarah's luxury car broke down on the outskirts of a small American town while she was driving to a private weekend getaway. With no chauffeur and no signal on her phone, she felt stranded and helpless. After hours of waiting, a tow truck finally arrived, driven by none other than Daniel Miller. Sarah recognized him faintly, but couldn't quite place where she had seen him before. Daniel, however, remembered her laugh from the gala. He said, "Nothing, simply loading her car onto his truck and taking her to his small garage." In the dim light of the workshop, Sarah looked out of place in her designer dress and diamond earrings. Yet Daniel treated her with the same respect and calm professionalism he gave to every customer. He rolled up his sleeves, inspected the engine, and got to work while she sat quietly, watching him. For the first time in years, Sarah wasn't surrounded by people trying to impress her. She was watching a man whose hands told a story of labor, whose clothes were stained from honest work, and whose eyes carried a depth of sincerity she rarely saw in her circle. The conversation that changed everything. Daniel worked. Sarah finally broke the silence. "You must think I'm just another spoiled rich girl, don't you?" she asked softly. Daniel chuckled. "I don't judge people by their money. I judge them by how they treat others." Something about his tone disarmed her. She confessed, almost guiltily, about the joke she had made at the gala. "It wasn't fair," she admitted. "I laughed at people who work harder than I ever have, people like you." Daniel paused, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and looked at her with a steady gaze. "What's unfair isn't the joke. It's that too many people think the value of a person is measured by their bank account. But when life gets tough, money can't fix everything. Character can." His words struck Sarah deeply. For the first time, she felt humbled, as though someone had held a mirror up to her life. From repair to revelation. By the evening, Daniel had fixed her car. Sarah expected him to present a large bill, as most people in her world would. Instead, he handed her the keys with a smile. "Car's good to go." "Don't worry about payment," he said. Sarah blinked, stunned. "Why not? You deserve it." "Because sometimes kindness is worth more than money," he replied simply. Tears welled in her eyes. She realized that while she had been joking about marrying a mechanic, she had overlooked the truth. People like Daniel carried values that no amount of wealth could buy. The public gesture. A few weeks later, Sarah attended another charity event, but this time she was different. In the middle of her father's speech, she stood up and took the microphone. With the audience staring in confusion, she told the story of her car breaking down, of the mechanic who had helped her without asking for anything in return, and of the lesson she had learned about humility and kindness. Her voice trembled as she confessed, "I once joked about marrying a mechanic, but the truth is, the mechanic I met had more honor, more strength, and more compassion than anyone I've ever known. Money can buy comfort, but it cannot buy character." The hall fell silent. Some people teared up, others applauded. Even her father, a man hardened by years in business, wiped his eyes. Sarah wasn't just the billionaire's daughter anymore. She was a young woman who had been changed by an encounter with real humanity. A new beginning. In the weeks that followed, Sarah kept in touch with Daniel. She visited his shop, watched him work, and even helped with small tasks, much to his amusement. Slowly, their friendship grew into something more. A bond built not on wealth or status, but on mutual respect and authenticity. The story of the billionaire's daughter and the mechanic spread through the town, then across social media, leaving thousands in tears. People shared it as proof that love and kindness could bridge any gap, no matter how wide. And Sarah? She never made a joke about mechanics again. Instead, she smiled whenever she heard the word, remembering the man who taught her that true worth is never measured in dollars but in deeds.